Let's kick things off by looking back to a moment when pocket change could suddenly feel like treasure in your palm. Picture a bustling grocery line in the late 80s, someone hands over a handful of quarters and one of them catches the light in a way that makes you pause. That tiny piece of copper-nickel alloy might have slipped unnoticed into a roll destined for the bank, but decades later it commands attention, and serious money. Today we're zeroing in on the 1988 Washington quarter, a coin that at first glance looks as ordinary as the rest, yet hides a handful of variations and hidden gems that seasoned collectors relish. You might have rolled past one at the laundromat, or maybe you discovered it tucked in an old jar of change. Either way, by the end of this segment you'll know exactly what to look for, why it matters, and how much it could be worth in your collection. The Washington quarter made its debut in 1932, honoring George Washington's 200th birthday with John Flanagan portrait on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. Fast forward to 1988, and the design is well into its sixth decade, but that year marked one of the smallest mintages of regular business strike quarters in the series up to that point. The Philadelphia Mint produced roughly 261.2 million pieces, while Denver struck about 818.5 million, numbers that sound large, but when compared to earlier or later years, they give the 1988 issue a subtle edge in scarcity. It's not like hunting down a Carson City Morgan dollar, yet within the millions you'll find pockets where errors and die variations slip through, turning a handful of misplaced lines or doubled letters into collector's gold. Start by examining the lettering on the obverse. A genuine 1988 quarter shows crisp, evenly spaced United States of America and quarter dollar legends, but a small subset reveals a pronounced doubling of the TR in quarter. This comes from a double die obverse, where the hubbed die impressed the design twice with slight misalignment. Another sought-after variation is the doubling visible in God We Trust, on the left side of Washington's profile. Inspect the IN closely. If the vertical strokes have a shadow or ghost image, you might be holding a DDO-001 type of double die quarter. These aren't plentiful. Estimations place a few thousand surviving examples in circulation-grade condition, so spotting one can be as thrilling as finding a rare stamp in a stack of old letters. Beyond doubling, die cracks and cuds can transform an everyday quarter into a conversation piece. Look along the rim near the eagle's left wing. A thin raised line deviating from the smooth field could signal a die crack, evidence of a worn die that should have been retired. Collectors prize these quirks for their uniqueness. A curved crack stretching from the rim into the field can fetch a premium, especially if it's bold enough to be visible without magnification. In tougher grade examples, the cracks might form spiderweb patterns, each one a snapshot of that specific die's final days before failure. When it comes to real-world numbers, high-grade MS67 and MS68 specimens of a regular 1988 Denver or Philadelphia quarter might trade hands for $15 to $25 apiece, but a sharp DDO example in MS65 can hit $200 or more at auction. A particularly strong double die in MS67 once commanded over $1,000 when it appeared at a major auction house in late 2022, drawing spirited bids from error coin specialists. That sale set a new benchmark for modern Washington quarters, proving that even coins we spend every day can become prized rarities when nature and human error collide in the minting process. Beyond market value, each error carries a story. Collectors recount tales of mail clerks, grocery cashiers, and toll booth attendants who unknowingly handled these pieces, never realizing the tiny die shift that would one day send numismatists to study every curve of their quarter rolls. One DDO-001 example showed up in an unopened roll sold at a coin shop in 2019. The buyer, digging through rolls for a nice MS65 red Lincoln cent, stumbled upon the quarter and walked away with a six-figure gain, proof that patient searching can pay off big. Of course, condition reigns supreme. A DDO-001 quarter in EF40 might bring $50 or so, reflecting its desirability over a perfectly common circulated example worth face value. As you climb grades, EU50, MS60, MS63, the value jumps steeply, especially once you pass MS65 into gem territory. An MS67 DDO example can sell for $800 to $1,200 depending on sharpness and eye appeal, and in rare circumstances where the doubling is exceptionally bold, collectors have shelled out upwards of $2,000. For pieces without dramatic doubling, mint state survivors still hold value. MS68 regular strikes, untouched and brilliantly lustrous, hover around $25 to $30, while MS69 specimens, almost flawless save for the tiniest contact mark, can cross $100 if the strike is strong. If a coin exhibits proof-like qualities, with mirrored fields and frosted devices, even in a business strike issue, it might command a premium in the $50 to $75 range in MS65PL condition. Wrapping up this exploration of the 1988 Washington Quarter, it's clear that a routine roll of change can conceal something extraordinary. From the subtle shadow of a doubled letter to the branching pattern of a worn die, these modest quarters carry uncommon stories and real value for collectors who know where to look. Keep your eyes sharp and your loupe close at hand. Before you pass that next quarter along, give it a glance you won't regret. And as we turn our attention to the next star of the show, prepare to dive into another era, another year where the ordinary became remarkable in the hands of mint workers and time alike. Sliding back to 1978, you're stepping right into an era where disco lights still shone bright and coins jingling in pockets reflected neon club floors. The Washington Quarter was riding high on its mid-century design, but for coin hunters, the 1978 issue hides subtle surprises beneath its familiar eagle reverse. As we move from that late 80s spotlight into the heart of the 70s, you'll discover how a year of high production still managed to yield striking varieties and a handful of errors that savvy collectors chase with equal passion. The Washington Quarter itself first appeared in 1932, but by 1978 it had become a mainstay of American pocket change for over 4 decades. Designed by John Flanagan, the obverse portrait of George Washington marked a departure from Liberty's torch, while the reverse eagle embodied the nation's strength. In the late 70s, rising metal costs led the U.S. Mint to experiment with alloy compositions, though the clad copper-nickel formula remained consistent. Despite mintages soaring into the hundreds of millions, particularly at the Denver and Philadelphia facilities, the 1978 quarter still surprises today through subtle die variations and mint state survivors that outshine even much scarcer issues. That year, the Philadelphia Mint struck roughly 789.9 million quarters, and Denver produced about 270.1 million. While these numbers look staggering, factor in the millions of rolls opened, spent, and melted over the past 40-plus years, and only the sharpest, most well-preserved examples remain. More importantly for error coin enthusiasts, a small percentage of coins experienced hub doubling on the obverse and slight misalignment on the reverse die, creating doubled letters and dates that catch the eye when you're scanning change. Hunting through a standard Bank of America coin bag or a casual box purchase at a local coin shop can yield these gems, if you know exactly where to look. On the obverse, double die varieties in 1978 are subtle but unmistakable under magnification. Focus on the TR in quarter and the final letters of trust. A genuine double die obverse, classified as DDO002, may show a faint second impression to the right of the primary letters, particularly on the base of the R and the tail of the T. These telltale signs appear in only a few thousand surviving pieces, mostly in circulated grades, so spotting one in a handful of rolled coins can feel like unearthing buried treasure. If your coin reveals doubling in God We Trust, you've likely found the most sought-after variety of the year. Turning the coin over, you might also notice misaligned reverses, coins where the eagle and legends jog slightly off-center. Mint alignment standards allowed a tolerance of up to 6 degrees of rotation, but some 1978 quarters show a faint shift, especially visible in the globe of the eagle's left talon and the spacing of United States of America. When the rotation exceeds 3 degrees, collectors consider these mildly off-center. Anything beyond 5 degrees crosses into the error category, potentially commanding 2 to 3 times the value of a perfectly centered coin in the same grade. Beyond doubling and misalignment, planchets occasionally arrived from the rolling mills with imperfections that made it all the way to striking. Excessive flow lines, fine striations across the fields, hint at metal that wasn't annealed properly, creating a satin-like finish prized by some specialists. In other cases, small planchet clips or lamination flaws left thin flakes missing from the rim, offering unique conversation pieces for error collectors. Though these don't fetch the sky-high premiums of major off-center strikes, even a clipped planchet quarter in very fine grade can sell for $50 to $75, compared to face value for a perfect circulation strike in similar condition. In auction records, high-grade 1978 quarters without error varieties have held steady, with MS67 specimens trading hands around $30 to $40, and MS68 reaching into the $75 to $100 range when the luster and strike are exceptional. But when an MS65 DD0002 example hits the block, bidding can escalate into the several $100 territory. One notable sale in 2023 saw an MS66 DD0002 bring over $1,200, thanks to razor-sharp doubling and pristine fields free of any bag marks. Auction houses often highlight these pieces under Modern Rarities sections, drawing attention from both seasoned error coin collectors and investors looking for high-grade modern quarters. Stories behind specific discoveries add to the allure. One collector recalled trawling through state-issued tollway change from the Midwest in the early 2000s and stumbling on a crisp DD0002 quarter in a pocket of an old wallet he bought at a thrift auction. Another seasoned dealer once found a clutch of off-center 1978 quarters in a sealed mint bag mislabeled as uncirculated Lincoln cents. The bag's seal broke, and eager eyes uncovered multiple rotation errors between 3 and 7 degrees, each commanding premiums when later sold individually. Condition remains the top driver of value. A double die in G4, good, condition might command $30 or more simply because of the rarity of the variety, while an EF45 could fetch $100 to $150. When you reach the mint state grades, premiums skyrocket. MS63 DD0002 coins often list at $300 to $400, and MS65 examples can push $800 or higher depending on eye appeal. Even off-center errors climb quickly against the dial. A 5-degree off-center MS65 quarter can be worth 2 to 3 times the price of a perfectly struck MS65 regular issue. For those content with standard strikes, proof-like qualities occasionally appear in business strikes. Under optimal striking conditions and with fresh dies, some 1978 quarters emerged with mirror-like fields and frosted devices, mimicking proof coins. In grades like PL65, these can bring $50 to $75 at retail, making them attractive to collectors who value aesthetic appeal over error focus. If you spot a quarter reflecting light like a tiny lake, it's worth a closer look. When examining your finds, arm yourself with a quality 5 times or 10 times loop, a soft-handled tweezer, and a black velvet tray to provide contrast. Rotate the coin under a bright LED lamp to catch doubling shadows and subtle rotations. Photograph your best candidates against a neutral background and compare against online variety attribution guides. Many dedicated error coin forums maintain detailed galleries to confirm your discoveries. By the end of your treasure hunt, whether you uncover a DD0002 double die or simply secure a gem mint MS68 regular strike, you'll gain a deeper appreciation for how even high mintage years like 1978 can surprise with pockets of rarity. These quarters may still jingle in everyday transactions, but for collectors who recognize their quirks, each glance becomes an adventure. Keep exploring rolls, inspect every angle, and remember that the 70s offered more than disco. Sometimes they offered a once-in-a-lifetime find slipped into your change purse. Up next, our journey jumps ahead a few years to the 1981 Washington quarter, where new era varieties and evolving mint practices set the stage for more modern-era marvels. Prepare to examine another familiar face with fresh eyes, and maybe even spot the next prize in your own pocket change. Shifting gears from the groove of the late 70s to the dawn of a new decade, the 1981 Washington quarter captures a moment when modern minting techniques met collector curiosity head-on. You might not expect much flair from a series so familiar, but those who've peered through loops and turned over rolls know the early 80s brought fresh die varieties and a handful of production quirks that still catch even seasoned eyes today. By the time you finish this exploration, you'll be primed to spot the telltale signs, hidden doubling, mint mark anomalies, and off-center strikes, that can turn what seems like ordinary change into a prized find. The story of the Washington quarter began in 1932, yet by 1981 the design had become a mainstay across every pocket in America. The mint at Philadelphia and Denver cranked out quarters in the hundreds of millions, driven by rising economic activity and the steady demand for small change. In 1981 alone, Philadelphia struck roughly 829 million quarters while Denver produced about 550 million. Those figures sound immense, but to a collector they represent a sea of opportunity, millions of coins, most lightly circulated, but enough hiding places for unique varieties to slip through quality control and into circulation. One of the most talked about features among collectors is the so-called D over S mintmark anomaly. In Denver's 1981 quarters, the D mintmark sometimes exhibits remnants of the previous S mintmark hub beneath it, evidence of a hub reversal error when the mint switched dies mid-production. Under magnification, you'll see a faint, ghostly S shadow just under one leg of the D. While many examples show only a whisper of this overdate, sharper impressions can fetch a meaningful premium. Estimates suggest only a few thousand examples bear any hint of the S, making them a must-check variety for anyone sorting through bulk rolls. Philadelphia specimens also offer intrigue, in the form of double die obverse. The 1981 PDDO004 variety presents slight doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," and the date, with faint secondary outlines trailing to the right and down. It's subtle enough that it may escape notice at first glance, but under raking light it almost glows as the doubled elements catch the eye. Collectors value these in any grade, but when you find one in AU58 or higher, the coin can command several $100s, compelling evidence that after nearly 50 years, Washington's visage still held surprises. On the reverse, the Denver pieces occasionally show a misplaced hub alignment, resulting in reverses that are rotated slightly clockwise. The eagle may appear to sit at a jaunty angle, its wings not quite horizontal. These off-center strikes range from just enough rotation to spot under a loop, typically around 3 degrees, to dramatic shifts of up to 8 degrees, where part of the rim is missing from view. Anything beyond 5 degrees is generally considered a formal error, and at that point, even modest circulation examples can fetch 2 to 3 times the value of a perfectly aligned counterpart. Beyond mintmarks and rotations, planchet issues from 1981 offer more room for discovery. Some coins exhibit planchet lamination splits, thin sheets peeling away near the rim, while others show flow lines so pronounced they create a rippled surface texture. Both result from inconsistencies in the metal rolling process, and both are prized by error coin aficionados. A 1981 quarter with a bold lamination split can reach $75 to $100 in very fine condition, whereas a similar clip or split in mint state 60 might top $150. Trading records confirm that demand for these varieties remains strong. A sharp D over S strike in MS65 sold at a specialist error coin auction in early 2024 for $1,350, exceeding presale estimates by nearly 30%. Meanwhile, APDDO004 in MS67 fetched $2,800 when it appeared in a private online sale later that spring, illustrating how top-end examples of these modern errors now stand shoulder to shoulder with rarities from much earlier eras. Personal stories add human flavor to these statistics. One collector recounts finding a D over S quarter in a roll purchased at a hardware store, tucked between screws and nails alongside everyday change. Another recalls a coin shop dealer laughing in disbelief when presented with an MS63 off-center example. He'd never seen a rotation that dramatic in his 30 years at the bench. These anecdotes underscore why even high-mintage years like 1981 can produce memorable treasure hunts. For the casual enthusiast, condition remains king. A perfectly struck MS68 regular issue quarter, unmarred and with full mint luster, typically trades for $30 to $40. Push that one grade higher into MS69, and you're looking at $125 to $150, provided the strike is sharp and no distracting bag marks mar the surface. Proof-like business strikes, known for their mirror-like fields, fetch a slight premium. PL64 to PL66 examples often reside in the $60 to $90 range. If you're sorting through pocket change hoping to uncover one of these rarities, arm yourself with a quality magnifier, a soft-tip tray, and a bright LED lamp. Rotate each coin slowly, watching for mintmark echoes or doubled letters. Compare suspect finds to online reference photos. Many numismatic forums and diagnostic guides offer side-by-side images that make attribution straightforward. And don't overlook circulated pieces. An off-center quarter in VF20 can still trade for $40 to $60 depending on the severity of the shift, a remarkable leap from its 25-cent face value. Even a modest D over S hint in a G6 coin might fetch $20 or more. These are exacting varieties that reward patience and a trained eye, turning a simple act of sorting change into a potential windfall. By the time you reach the end of your hunt, whether you've uncovered a bold, fully struck D over S in brilliant mint state or a gentle rotation error peeking out from a beat-up circulated coin, you'll appreciate how the early 80s minting landscape blended precision with imperfection. The 1981 quarter may dwell at the boundary of modern to many, but among collectors it stands as proof that even contemporary issues can harbor secrets. Up next, we'll tie together these 3 decades of discovery, from the late 70s to the early 80s, and explore how your own collection can benefit from vigilant inspection, smart grading, and a dash of curiosity. Stay tuned as we wrap up and reveal the best practices for preserving these treasures and maximizing their appeal to both buyers and fellow enthusiasts.